So for networks, so on any finite space, right, we're talking about infinite space. On a finite space, right, we imagine just like this is a grid here and we have our little random walker running around. They bounce off the borders of this space here, right? So they go hop, hop, hop. Then eventually that just fills it up uniformly, right? So if you're trying to predict where they are, then, uniform density. And that's probably they come back at any time. It's also sort of uniform and so on. So if you've got a finite thing, everything changes completely. So you talk about the invariant density, and if you go into chaos and all that sort of work, you get chaotic attractors and so on. The idea is where is something in the long run? It turns out to be pretty strange attractors for a lot of systems. A lot of interesting systems we like to talk about. So this is chaotic systems. But on networks, you get a beautiful thing, which is a random walker ends up being at a node proportional to the node's degree, which is a nice problem to work on. I think might leave it for complex networks. So what's going on there? So maybe that's worth a little drawing. And this, as I said, underlies things like originally something like Google and so on. You let little random walkers loose. But if you have a little, this is working, yeah, you have a little network, right? And so we imagine our little walker is going to just hop around here, and now they've got a, right, so these are the places they can be. So what happens eventually is that they can be uniformly, the probability they're on an edge that's the thing that becomes uniform. This is a really crucial little detail. That becomes uniform. And so they're just bouncing around. So if you look at edges, that's a uniform probability, right? So there's a third of a chance that walker is here, a third of a chance the walker is here, and a third of a chance the walker is here. Which means that 3 out of 6 times of their little traverses, they'll end up here, only 1 out of 6 for these ones. Right? So now it's not uniform in space. If you think of these are the spatial positions, now it's uneven, right? So a half of a chance and a 1/6 for these. And so this is, of course, this is 3, 1, 1, and 1. That's the number of friends that these nodes have. So it is proportional to their, what we call degree, right? The number of friends. So that's actually true of diffusion in 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimensions. It's just that in 1 dimension you have, or 2 dimensions you have, right? You have this, everything's uniform. The number of friends a node has in your grid is the same, right? So each node here has 4 friends in a grid. But networks break that up. So in a sense, these are like this is a really important thing to understand about networks. This is like a local dimension, right? So you're actually moving around on a network. You're moving through different dimensions, which sounds like a Doctor Who thing to do, but you are doing that. Yes. So that's a beautiful result. If you want, you could try to figure out why that, like how to derive that. A little bit of linear algebra. Yeah, so one of my favorite things. We'll get to a weird, there are many weird things about networks, and one of them is that, for example, your friends have more friends than you. It just comes for free in networks, which is so anything that's tied to the number of connections you have could be wealth or whatever it is, and it turns out it's true for, say, scientists with citations, actually, and so on. So your colleagues, on average, have more citations than you. So there's sort of a built-in keeping up with the Joneses kind of feature in networks. Just because you exist in a social network, yes, your friends are better looking than you. That depends if those things are correlated with number of friends, right? So yeah. Right. Anyway, we'll get to that, and that has a lot of implications for how things spread, diseases, and of course, propaganda. We have new terms for that, like fake news, but how things spread, right? How stories spread, because they branch in a way that people do not really appreciate. So, yes, just in general, networks are weird. Okay, that's good. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's really edge spaces where the diffusion, so diffusion, when we think of it in real space, on a grid or whatever, a nice clean grid, it's really the diffusion is acted in such a way that the walkers are uniformly appearing on their edges, right? And so in a normal grid, that just means, of course, they're uniformly appearing in the points of the grid, but really networks make that clear. All right. So a few other things. I was going to show you a few other pieces. How am I doing?